Is this Ryan?
This is Ryan, yep.
Cool.
And I've got a co-host in the room with me, Rob Minot.
Okay.
And by co-host, he means pain in his butt.
Okay. We'll see how that goes.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter. Wow. Crickets.
Definitely.
Crickets. My name is Rob Minot, and today joined by Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
And nobody else.
Nope.
It's just us.
Again.
Yep. No cowbell. No AT Banter.
Nope. No
It's just
Steve.
us.
Yeah, I think, if we don't start getting Steve back at the show and if we don't start hearing from our audience, we're just going to pack it up.
What?
Yeah, be done
No,
with
we're
it.
not.
Yeah, we'll roll it up.
No, we're not.
Yeah,
It's-
call it a day.
No.
No.
Hell no. Why? Doesn't matter who's listening.
Everybody's
We do this for
listening.
us.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I cannot believe it's August is almost gone. Like, where has this summer gone? Like, I feel like I'm still waiting for it to be summer. Like, we've had such weird weather here that, I mean, we've had a few hot spells here and there, but really it's been a weird summer for us.
I'm glad it's almost over.
Are you?
I am.
Haven't you not had a good summer?
No, summer's been fine. It's just
Yeah, but it is our
typical
slow season.
summer, and it is slow, so we've been able to take time away, and I don't know, I'm just looking forward to things getting going again, the weather being a little cooler, and
Yeah. All right.
that's me though.
Until the second week of September, and then you're like, I can hardly wait till
Well,
the summer.
we know winter's coming. Fort Nelson, BC had 30 centimeters of snow the other
Yeah, I
night.
heard about that. That's
And it's only
nuts.
August.
That is nuts.
That's not even like far north.
Yeah, I thought Mackenzie was bad. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine getting snow in August.
There were people camping, and they had to get out because there was snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's nuts. Hey, Ryan.
Rob,
What are we up to today?
today we are talking with Paul Ruvolo, who is the creator of an indoor navigation app called Clew.
Yeah, this is interesting. I took a look at this last night. Where did you hear about Clew?
I think I heard about it from the GTT, Getting Together with Technology list.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, it's a really interesting idea, and it's a really interesting app that uses the augmented reality component of an iPhone to do some pretty cool indoor navigation things. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to talk to him and get the scoop on it. But before we do that, I have something else that I wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty interesting that happened last week. Did you hear that Aira has a free plan?
It's not even a free plan. It's free for everybody, everywhere, all the time. You don't even need a plan. You have 5 minutes free.
Every day, correct?
Every day. Any time of day is my understanding as well.
Yeah, this is a really interesting move on their part.
Well, and I think, there was probably a bit of pressure from Be My Eyes.
I guarantee that. I mean,
Be My Eyes has, I think I've mentioned before, like 1.2 million volunteers who are available to help you with everyday activities, I think for as long as you need, or as long as the volunteer's available. Whereas with Aira, they've had their paid subscriptions. And, now that there's a free tier, they do stipulate that it is a limited, I think 5 minutes. So you're not going to use it to do a whole lot, but if you need something quick and dirty, Aira's now there for you.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted. I kind of don't know how to feel. I mean, I think that it's obviously a good move. I'm always happy to see services being offered for free. But I mean, I also feel like I think you're absolutely right. I think this was a move in order to compete with the free apps that are out there, like Be My Eyes. I think that the feeling, I'm sure, on Aira's part is that they want to be the single app on somebody's phone.
Well, they're the ones that are, I think, really pushing public access the hardest, right? They're making their partnerships with international airports and, different companies and agencies all over the place, right? So nobody else seems to be doing that.
It's true. I mean, they work their ass off.
Yeah.
Developing the app and to making it better and getting into spaces. I guess my fear is that, if it's a move in order to try to sort of squash out some of the free apps that are out there, it plays into this idea that, there's got to be competition, because they, at the end of the day, they are companies and they have to keep the lights on, and they are all competing in this similar space. And it's hard to compete with free. I mean,
yeah, but I think you have to remember that, Aira says that their agents are vetted. They're professionally trained.
They are.
It's not Betty Jo sitting in her kitchen answering a Be My Eyes call saying, "Sure, Ryan, I can help you out with this, no problem." There's some trust, I think, that Aira is trying to promote with their customers as well. So, there's some value to a service that you pay for.
I agree 100%. You're getting top tier help when you contact Aira, for sure. And that does give it the advantage over something like Be My Eyes that's crowdsourced. But I mean, the flip side of that is that Be My Eyes, it could very well be a very important part of somebody's life who, say, can't afford the subscription to Aira.
Absolutely.
And so, if this sort of results in Be My Eyes not being able to function anymore, or, it getting squashed out, I don't know. I kind of think we're worse off for that.
Right.
So it is a double-edged sword. I mean, I'm very happy and very hats off to Aira for doing this. I mean, certainly you're helping, you're helping people on a daily basis with little return. But at the same time, I think that this is also obviously an attempt to increase their market share, to get their app on more people's phones, in order, in the hopes that they eventually will, buy into a subscription. Yep. So, it is what it is. I absolutely understand that, especially with Aira, again, I'm sure they have high operating costs. Mm-hmm. They have to train all their operators. So they have to be competitive, and they have to do things like this in order to try to increase their services. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I was a little surprised by it. How about you?
A bunch of us in the community, I think, saw it coming. We knew something was coming. We just didn't know what it was. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 3 to 6 months, or the next CSUN next year, to see if, that gets broadened out to maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if some of the prices come down. Like, we're still waiting for, Aira to actually be, I think, a full-fledged service here in Canada. Early on, there was talk of Aira and CNIB partnering, and we've heard nothing about that.
I don't know what they're up to.
Our telcos here, like Rogers, TELUS, and Bell, my understanding is you still need the AT&T box, which works on the Rogers network here in Canada, if you're using the Aira service here. So, Aira's been around a while now, and they do have some partnerships in Canada, like with Pearson Airport in Toronto.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to get them on and just find out what's happening with Canada.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I mean, 5 minutes, I guess that's essentially one call.
Depends on the task.
Yeah, but I mean, and it also depends on when the clock starts. If the clock starts the second that you press that call button, by the time you get somebody, you explain the issue. Yeah, I would assume that 1, maybe 2 calls you could squeeze in. So
Yeah, well, it depends.
I think it's a no. It's you don't really lose out if you're Aira with this, because it's going to mean a certain amount of increased work on their end, but again, that's going to mean that their app is on that many more phones.
Well, and again, if you need something that's going to take a little bit more than 5 minutes, then use another service. Use Be My Eyes or something.
Yeah, sure.
If you're flipping through your cupboard under your sink and calling Aira saying, "What's this bottle? What's this bottle? What's this bottle? What's this bottle?" You could eat 5 minutes up pretty quickly.
Well, and I'm sure the hope on their part is that people get used to calling, and then if it turns out that they do need more than 5 minutes, well, you know what? Then they're probably going to go ahead and eat a subscription.
Right. Yeah, you really have to weigh what your needs are going to be. And it's a great way for people to actually see the level of quality that they get with Aira. When the whole service is behind a paywall, it can be challenging. So this way, you're giving people a little taste of for free and hoping that they come back for more. It's a brilliant move on Aira's part. I just don't hope it doesn't come at a cost to a different service that people are using for free that they get a lot out of. I hate to see any sort of AT developer or company. I just don't like to see people fighting. Yeah.
Being competitive. I just want everyone to get along. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
Joining us now is Paul Ruvolo, creator of the Clew app. Paul, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Don't be too excited. We're not.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe if you just want to start telling us a little bit about the app and maybe give us a case study example of how the app might be used.
Sure. Oh, yeah, definitely. So, basically this app is all about indoor navigation. So, places where GPS signal is not available. And one thing that's been really great in recent years has been a bunch of new features that have been released for phones that allow you to do pretty accurate indoor position tracking. So technologies like Apple's AR Kit or Android's AR Core. So the basic idea is you can essentially take your phone, hit a record button, move through space. It could be indoors, it could be outdoors. And while you're moving, the phone is constantly sort of recording the exact motion of the phone as it moves in space. And the technology's come like a long way with respect to how accurate it can be and how it can actually run on a phone. This is pretty computationally heavy stuff. So basically you can record your path. There's sort of like two different use cases for it. One would be you would record a path, say, like if you're going to a place, like say you're going to the bathroom and you need to come back right away, sort of after using the bathroom. You could record a path to the bathroom, and then if you need help getting back, the phone can automatically guide you back. So that could be helpful either if like maybe you were escorted there by like a sighted guide or something, or sometimes getting back to a place is harder than getting to a place. So for instance, like getting back to your seat at a conference table might be harder than it is to get out of that room and go down the hallway. So that's one use case. And then the other use case is if you want to record the route and use it in the future. So maybe you just like checked into a hotel or something and you want to record a route from like the front door of the hotel to the elevator or something. You could record it one time, maybe with assistance from somebody, and then you could follow it back every other time when you're navigating around in the building. So we've had people talk about those kind of use cases. We've also had people talk about using it at work. For instance, some offices are pretty difficult to get around, like especially these sort of open sort of concept offices that don't have as many sort of walls and easily sort of trackable landmarks and things like that. So we've got some reports from folks who are using it at work for those types of things. So there's a whole variety of uses, but basically the two types are sort of record and then go right back, or record and save and then follow that in the future.
Now, how does it actually work?
Yeah, so this is using Apple's AR kit. And so the specific type of algorithm that it's using is called visual inertial odometry. So odometry just means that the phone is estimating its motion based on sensors that are actually on the phone. So it's not referencing any external landmarks or anything like that. Like it's not using like GPS or anything, satellites. So what it's doing is as you move your phone around, there's these inertial sensors in the phone. So like your accelerometer, same thing that would be used for detecting what orientation the phone is in.
Right.
And then also gyroscopes, which detect the rotation of the phone. So the phone is sort of getting all that data and then is fusing that with data from the camera. So the camera is essentially looking out and looking for sort of little parts of the visual environment that it can track from frame to frame. So say like the corner of like a door or like a feature on the carpet or something is tracking hundreds of these features from frame to frame. And based on a pattern of where these things move, it can estimate how far the camera has moved and for what path it's taken through space.
I see.
And so that was developed by the big mobile phone companies so that they can enable sort of augmented reality experiences. So the whole idea with augmented reality is you have some virtual content that's going to be sort of fused with the real world, right? So the most common use case is like you're looking through the screen of the phone, you see the video feed that the camera's capturing, and then in the video feed you're seeing like virtual characters like pop up or something along those lines. So Pokemon Go is a great example of one of these things that kind of went viral, and everybody loves it. Well, I don't know about everybody. I don't actually play it. But,
me neither. Our boss does
like it. Yeah. But yeah, so in order to have those types of experiences, the phone needs to be able to understand how it's moving through space, so it can sort of render the virtual content from the appropriate like viewing angle and distance. And so what we're doing is sort of piggybacking on that technology, and instead of thinking about it for some mostly sort of visual augmented reality experience, we're thinking how could we use this for assistive technology. So it's sort of this idea that this is a new feature. There's lots of potential use cases for it, and we're sort of one of the first groups of folks who are starting to think about how we could actually apply this to sort of tasks right now with the current state of the technology.
Right.
So that's really the space I've been working in for about the last 4 or 5 years. Started working with some special purpose phones that Google had come out with a number of years ago, and now everything works on the iPhone. The potential for sort of releasing this stuff is pretty awesome. So it's been cool to be able to sort of think about how the technology can be utilized and work with the community to do something that's helpful for people.
Now, because you mentioned, you're working on iOS. Are you guys looking at developing for Android?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at it. I mean, I could maybe just say a little bit about like kind of my own context and like where I'm coming from, because that might be kind of helpful in understanding some of the ways we're approaching this. So I'm a college professor. I work at a small undergraduate college called Olin College of Engineering. And so I work there. I do a lot of teaching during the year. All of my research right now is really focused in this area of assistive technology with smartphones. So I work a lot over the summer to make improvements on these apps, and then kind of during the year, I can do a little bit of work, but it's often a little bit harder to make progress. So definitely doing an Android port is something we're looking at. We're just trying to find the right sort of combination of sort of resources sort of in time to put into it.
Sure.
So I wouldn't say it's the very top of the list, but it's definitely up high on the list.
Sure. And do they have a comparable system within Android?
Yes, they do. So Google was actually the first to the market with this stuff. So they had this project called Tango, which came out like 4 or 5 years ago. It was like a developers only platform, and they came out with 2 phones, consumer phones that use this thing. And the Google technology was actually much more advanced than what's currently on iOS, but it used special purpose cameras and really fancy hardware. So things like 3D cameras, like the same thing you'd find in like a Microsoft Xbox, like the Kinect, it had that built in. And it was a pretty awesome thing. But then they were kind of slow to kind of get it out to the market, and very few phones had it, just these 2 phones. And then Apple came along and developed ARKit, which kind of reset Google's whole strategy. And so essentially Google put out something very similar to ARKit and sort of took out the special 3D features, the special cameras that they had used for the Tango. And so now they essentially have something basically the same as what Apple has.
Right.
So you could just as easily build this technology on an iPhone and an Android. I don't have as much experience with the Android library, but I think it's pretty much the same.
So it's interesting. So as a developer, I guess you kind of got to be flexible in terms of, depending on what platform you're going to develop in, depending on what the technology, where the technology is at on or where their kits are at on any given platform.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, so I believe really strongly in the idea of sort of the smartphone as an amazing sort of platform for this type of technology, because it does let you sort of distribute things at a global scale, but then you really are at the mercy of the companies, right? I mean, Google got rid of Project Tango, and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into that, and all of a sudden, their strategy shifts. So, you're absolutely right. It's all about flexibility, but the opportunity is great. So I think it's worth kind of rolling with the punches, I guess.
And I like, as a developer who's specifically interested in AT, is it an exciting time right now? Because these technologies, they just keep continuing to push the technology and what the technology can do with every new iteration of device. Does that make your job exciting, or does it make it a bit of a pain because you're constantly sort of playing catch up?
Yeah, I guess a little bit of both. That's a really good point. I mean, I think it's really exciting. I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of history of sort of technologies in the orientation mobility space, sort of engineers taking the latest and greatest technology and sort of applying it to that. And not all of that's been successful. I think a lot of it was sort of technologies that were like, really expensive or not very reliable. Sort of they were developed only as assistive technologies, and therefore they didn't have the sort of robustness of other things. So I think I'm excited right now about this technology, because it seems like for the first time we're able to think about orientation mobility for people who are blind using a technology that's built into a device that not everybody owns a smartphone, but a lot of people who are blind, especially in the United States, own a smartphone. And this is technology that's, like you said, it's sort of pushing the boundaries, these big tech companies are working to make it better and better. We can sort of ride that wave and think about how we can take it and apply it to whatever purposes we want. And in this case, what I'm, most excited about is assistive technology, and thinking about how myself as a researcher and a designer can sort of take that technology and work with folks in the community to make it something really cool and really useful. So that's what really drives me and gets me excited about this stuff.
Where did your interest in assistive technology come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I came to Olin from UC San Diego, and I did my PhD in machine learning and robotics. So I'd always been interested in sort of like computer vision and artificial intelligence and things like that. And I came to Olin with I had a couple of projects that were sort of around assistive technology, like they were sort of adjacent to work I'd been doing. But I didn't really know what I was really doing in the space. So just to say a little bit about Olin College. So we were started 21 years ago with a mission to sort of change the way we educate engineers. So it's really a different vision of what engineering is all about. And probably the thing that's most near and dear to the heart of Olin faculty and students is solving real world problems and designing with people and doing collaborative design. And so as I got to Olin, I just sort of like became immersed in the sort of ideas of our curriculum and worked a lot with colleagues. So I have a lot of colleagues who are kind of working in the disability study space. I have colleagues who've taught a class on design for older adults for about a decade, and basically just sort of working with these folks and being influenced by their sort of ways of thinking and getting help from them and collaborating. I got more and more interested in assistive technology. And then as I started working with the sort of Boston area communities for people who are blind, it was just I thought a really great experience. It was really interesting to me from sort of an intellectual point of view. Like there's like always so much to learn, and every time I have a conversation with somebody, I learn something new. And then I just also think there's like you get to meet great people, and I think the things you work on at the end of the day have the potential to be useful to people, and I think that's exciting. So I don't know. I don't have like sort of a personal story. I think a lot of people have, maybe a relative or somebody who has a disability and that maybe pulled them into the space. But for me, it was really a sort of a professional journey, and just finding this work to be really exciting to me and really resonate with the types of things I want to do. So I just sort of followed that for the last 5 or 6 years. And over time, I've just gotten more and more interested in it. It's become a bigger and bigger part of what I'm doing. Just want to make sure I approach things with humility and make sure we're always doing things that are helpful to the community and kind of keep that at the center. I think there's always this tendency for engineers to want to solve all the world's problems, by themselves. And I don't believe in that, but I do believe in solving things collaboratively with people who would be using the technologies. That's what I've always tried to do.
Well, it's interesting too, because, these technologies will be released. Whoever, Apple, Google, they'll release these devices with this new tech. And usually it's left up to a developer. It's left up to somebody to go, oh, you know what? If we leverage this technology and can make it do this, we can totally turn this into an amazing piece of assistive technology. And
right.
that's exactly what we need, because the people who are the Apple and Google aren't necessarily doing that. They're just saying, hey, here's the technology, run with it. And so it's so important for engineers out there to be able to sort of look at this and figure out how to leverage it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, it's not obvious. I mean, I think people have different ideas of what could be done, but you have to find just the right intersection between what would actually be helpful and what is sort of technologically feasible. Right. And so there's all these ideas like, it would be great if it could do this, but maybe it's not ready to do that yet. Or people have really misguided ideas about what people who are blind would actually find useful. So I guess I try to live in both of those camps and make sure that kind of stay in the intersection of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not intuitive at all. I mean, somebody would take a look at something like augmented reality and go, well, this is going to be of zero use to somebody who's visually impaired. But that's not the case at all, especially when you dig down into the guts of the technology. There's a lot of applications that it could be used for.
Right.
And right now, mobility is such an important aspect. You're right. Everybody has these smartphones in their pockets, and if we could figure out a way to really marry a lot of different technologies together to sort of make an overarching mobility aid, that would be amazing. I mean, part of the problem that I see in the field right now is that there's all these apps that are springing up that can all do different things and, leveraging different technologies. And I can imagine that as a somebody who is, I could see as somebody who's blind who wants to say get from their doorstep to the mall, or even more specifically, get going from their doorstep to buy a pair of jeans at Old Navy. Like, it'd be so nice if they could do that through one interface or one app, using stuff like GPS, and then using beacon technology, using the AR technology, and just having one seamless app instead of having to rely on one to get them to the bus stop, rely on another one to get them to the front door of the mall, using a different one to get them to the store, and then using having to use a different one to get them to their jeans. Do you see in the future that maybe that might happen, or is that just pie in the sky?
No, I absolutely do think that could happen. I think you're right. We've gotten a lot of feedback that users want just a single app that kind of connects all these aspects together. I think a big thing eventually is going to be, a lot of the technology we're using right now is sort of, we're not making many assumptions about businesses opting into this technology. It's sort of just, we can record this route and somebody can follow it back, and you can now share routes on the app with other folks. You can send them to people, which is kind of a new feature we added about a week ago.
Oh, okay.
But I think you're right. I mean, I think in order to take that next step, you probably want something like a Bluetooth technology standard. Obviously, there's a lot of beacon stuff out there.
Yeah.
With augmented reality technology, you would have these little signs that look kind of like QR codes. Those would be kind of the equivalent of a beacon. They would sort of anchor the position of the phone relative to them. And I think to get to like a place where there is just this like seamless experience where you can go anywhere, and that I think you would need some sort of standard like that to be sort of adopted by businesses. And I think there's a good case to be made that will happen. I mean, I think change is always challenging, but I think I've heard about some folks doing work with businesses to make them accessible with like beacon technology. So
yeah,
I don't know, maybe it's a matter of sort of expanding those efforts out. I'm not sure.
I think that is part of the challenge in terms of something like beacon technology, because you're reliant on the space, the retail space, whatever it is, the store, the mall, or whatever, to install some sort of that beacon technology in order for it all to work. And I don't know, I don't feel like anybody has really broken out and become the standard beacon technology.
No.
Like, that still seems to be being worked on and developed, and I don't think anyone's really taking the plunge certainly in terms of AT. I mean, I think they love the idea in terms of being able to use that in some sort of marketing effort. And maybe once that happens, it becomes more standard, then the AT aspect of it can piggyback off that. But I just don't see the spaces really showing a heck of a lot of interest in propelling stuff like beacon technology forward. But that is where AR can maybe pick up the pieces from that, because with AR, you don't need that physical beacon. You can be using these AR markers that you're talking about that are shared between a community. Is that kind of sort of the ultimate vision for this?
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. We actually have another project that I've been working on. So I actually have a bunch of projects related to sort of AR and assistive tech. Clew is the one that we've actually been able to get all the way to putting onto the App Store.
Right.
But we have another project which we call the Invisible Map Project, and essentially the goal of that, and we have sort of a proof of concept of it right now, is to provide an app where somebody can just take a standard printer, print out a few of these AR tags, put them up in a space, and then with their phone just walk around the space for, say, 15 minutes or so until you've explored the whole space, and then put in points of interest into that space. And this could be like the store manager or somebody who manages that space, or even it could honestly even be like a guerrilla effort if you had sort of the ability to like affix tags in like a public place. I'm not sure if that's exactly the right change model, but there have been things like that. So you do that, and then it automatically creates a 3D map of the environment. It knows where all of the tags are automatically, and knows where all of the sort of points of interest are. And then you can upload that to a server, and then anybody that comes in can download that map and then use it to navigate around the environment. So that's
amazing.
One vision that we're sort of excited about pushing forward. It sort of does require these tags to be installed. So there's sort of like, how do we think about that? But the goal is to sort of make it essentially free to whoever's managing the space. Like all you need to do is print these things out, hang them on the wall, download a free app. Within an hour, you have the whole thing done. Wow. It would actually be that easy. So that's something we're excited about. We haven't quite gotten there in terms of getting all the infrastructure together, but it's doable with current technology, with ARKit as a technology, which is kind of cool.
See, in a way, that's almost the frustrating part. It's like, we have the technology in place where we could just make accessible spaces, leveraging the power of the smartphone and all these different technologies, but just everybody's sort of doing their own thing. Yep. Right? So
that's fair. That's really fair.
Or it just takes like guys like you, like to actually take that technology and go, okay, well, here's how we do it. So it's cool in the one sense, it's an exciting time. But in the other sense, it's just like, come on, guys.
That's right.
If we're really serious about accessibility and
I think maybe like you talked about earlier is the standards. Like, are there any standards for indoor navigation, whether it's beacon technology, whether it's maps of some tactile mapping? Like there's been standards on GPS, but is there any standards for indoor navigation? I don't know. I
heard about one standard coming out, but it's mostly sort of, here are the characteristics that an indoor navigation system should possess, and sort of standardizing some of those things. It doesn't necessarily tell us exactly what the right technologies to use are. So you kind of need something that's people can like get behind and kind of push forward. I mean, I guess another thing for me is I sort of came at the whole area from a very sort of technological point of view, but I guess over time I've really come to realize that there's so many layers to these issues. Like you guys said, the technology is there. So how do you sort of get people behind? What is the right change model for this to happen? Who are the right people to get in the room? And I think those are things I'm excited about, but don't always feel very sort of equipped to engage with. But it's something that I do think is a huge part of the solution will ultimately need to be around that.
Well, and in talking to different community groups, you talk to one group of blind people, they'll have a different idea of what they want compared to the next group of blind people, or somebody in a wheelchair maybe has different opinions than the next person in the wheelchair. So but you have to start somewhere, and that's got to be the tough part, is where do you start?
Right.
So
so in a sense, Clew is an interesting place to start, just because it was sort of a way we could do something without, or there's sort of something that we could do completely on our own. Mm-hmm. And like you guys said, that's limited in a lot of ways, but at least I think if we accomplish anything, maybe it'll be just raising awareness about the potential of this type of technology. So they're saying, hey, here's like one app that's like using this technology to do this one thing. And maybe that inspires folks to get together or to build something larger that's more standardized. But it was sort of, that was the one sort of place you could kind of start and do something kind of just completely from the grassroots. So that was one of the reasons. I guess the reason I can do this, have this app for free, is through Olin College, because they employ me and they value the work, and they give me sort of license to do it.
Right.
So I guess I sort of have that, but like if you didn't have that, then you have to be thinking about what's the sort of business model and all those sorts of things. So it's you're right. In a perfect world, we could just make the best thing possible. Maybe it'd be sponsored by a government or something, but
Yeah.
This is sort of all coming from sort of a capitalist sort of framing most of the time.
Yeah, and it is kind of a shame when you look at the landscape of it. It's a shame when you see, one app developer sort of stepping on another one to try to sort of get on top of it. But again, that's just the world we live in. But okay, having said all that, but let's dive a little bit more into Clew. Let's talk a little bit more about Clew and maybe hit on some of the stuff that we haven't talked a bit about.
Yeah, sure.
Give us an idea of what kind of challenges or hurdles you guys came up against when you were developing the app.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So there's a few things. So one of the biggest issues has actually been coming up with a way to have users understand how the technology works for this sort of new sort of AR-based technology. We found that even people who've been using the app for a while didn't really have a good sense of how the technology worked. And of course, I don't mean like you need to know all the gory details of how this stuff works, but just having a little bit of a mental model behind like what the system is doing can help you understand what its limitations are and how to best use it. So like an example is like at the very, very beginning, like people didn't necessarily know they had to have the camera out. So they have the phone in their pocket. And of course that didn't work. But even other things like knowing that the phone tracking works the best if the camera can sort of see a wide area of like the environment. So holding the phone up and pointing it straight ahead is a big deal. Another thing is just that the phone doesn't really know what direction your body's facing. It only knows what direction it's facing. So whenever it's giving feedback to you, it's always with relationship to the direction of the phone. So the phone might be saying, I'm pointed in the right direction. But then if the user is not facing the same direction as their phone, then that might be confusing to them.
Right.
So there's like a lot of things around just this being like a very new technology and not really having the right sort of language to convey to folks so they can sort of best utilize it. That was one thing that I didn't really expect going in, but it became clear that users have to have some idea of what's going on in order to best utilize it.
Right.
And then I guess, another just more concrete thing that we've been doing that's been challenging is, everybody asks for the feature of how do I save a route? So when the phone, the Clew app first came out, all you could do is record a route, maybe pause it, and then go right back to where you started. There was no notion of storing routes or saving routes.
Right.
And so in order to be able to save routes, you have to be able to essentially record your motion through space, but then you have to have some way to sort of position your phone in a known location when you want to reload the route.
Right.
So that was also very challenging. So the thing we came up with was basically positioning the phone against a landmark of some type. So the idea is you might use like a door frame or like a wall or something like that. And I think a lot of folks, like that's pretty challenging and not very user friendly for them. And then even people who've used the app for a long time are still like, why do I have to do that? Like it should be way easier. And I definitely agree with that, but that's been sort of one of the sort of hurdles of designing the app is like knowing that you need something that does that, but not knowing how to make it really user friendly.
Right.
So we've been working on coming up with better ways to solve that problem. And we're hoping to come out with some of them soon, but those have been like two of the big challenges, I'd say.
What about the ability to share routes with other people?
Yeah, so like I said, we do have like a limited version of that. So right now you can go on a route, save it, and then send it via email or text as it's like a file, and then somebody else can import it into their version of Clew and then use it. The big challenges around that. So like I said, there's this alignment problem. So how do you like put your phone in a similar position as the person who recorded the route? So if you're the one recording the route, we have the ability to add either a voice note or some text to describe where to put the phone. So like the route is only useful if the person you send it to can understand the instructions about where to put the phone.
Right.
And like I said, we're trying to come up with better ways to do that alignment. We have a prototype of a visual alignment thing where you just kind of point the phone and it kind of tries to figure out the alignment. So we have that. And also we made the decision to make it just sort of one person to one person, because we're also very worried about the sort of notion of trust and sort of credibility. So, a lot of people have asked for like a public space where they could share routes with other people, but we're just wondering, we would think it's like a big design challenge to figure out how to like do that in a way where people can trust the routes they're downloading, and how do you sort of build that up. So the current version is like, you would just send it to somebody and there'd already be that established trust relationship.
Yeah.
So we're kind of starting there. I haven't actually gotten any reports of anybody using it yet. We just came out with it about a week ago. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I could see how that could be really challenging. You'd have to have some sort of a thing where uploaded routes could be reviewed almost, like, so you could see like, okay, well, this is, everybody's giving this a good review, so it's good, so it's not just some troll that decides to make a path down a flight of stairs or something.
Well, let's talk about that. Is there the ability to download a route and look at it offline?
That's fascinating. Yes, you definitely could. You mean like sort of like to plan the route or like understand what the route entails or something like that?
Let's say a friend of mine sends me a route that they've recorded, and before I actually go on that route, I can actually sit on my couch and actually virtually walk that route.
Interesting.
That's a great idea. You definitely certainly could do that. I hadn't really thought about. I'd heard about apps like that, but I didn't actually make the connection that you could do that with Clew until you just said that. So that would totally be technically feasible. You could certainly do that.
That'd be interesting.
So that might be something we want to kind of ask around a little bit more and get people's feedback on to see if they find that useful. But that could be a really interesting feature.
Look at that! Boom! It's not even 11 o'clock in the morning. You've already improved that.
Well, it's kind of like you can do that with GPS and offline maps, right? You can actually preview your route before you go. So why not with indoor navigation?
Wow.
Right. Yeah, it could say something like go forward, 10 meters, make a right, make a left, that kind of thing. Yeah, that could all definitely be done.
Or compass coordinates, for sure. Northwest, southeast.
Right. Yeah, I guess another hurdle I would say with this, it's been a little bit challenging, is just getting, like, this app has like a pretty wide, if you look at the number of people who like downloaded the app, it's like, I mean, it's not that high. It's like we probably have like 6,000 downloads or something,
right?
Which, I don't know, it's like kind of small, but like at least it's getting out there. But the people are distributed all over the world. Mm-hmm. So one of the challenges we've had is just getting the right type of feedback so we can make the app better. So figuring out how to like kind of work with folks. So a lot of the work I've done in the past has been, we've done a lot of co-designing with people. So there's a lot of great institutes for the blind in the Boston area, a lot of great organizations we work with. Like we work with like Perkins School, we work with the Carroll Center. Mm-hmm. So we've done a lot of in-person co-designs and get a lot of feedback there, but getting feedback from people distributed around the world can be challenging. We've had a few users who've been really awesome and given us really great detailed feedback, but we really just want more.
Is it?
So that's another thing, just building that up. Yeah.
Is it English only, or has it been localized for other regions?
We just got a Spanish localization. We just got the files back from the guys at Info Technovision, which is a Spanish language assistive tech podcast.
Cool.
They actually wrote up a super detailed description of Clew. So they just sent us the translations for it. So we're going to try to get that out.
Fantastic.
Pretty soon and get a couple more languages out there as well. So that's something we've known as like a big issue we need to work on for a while, but we just sort of gotten to the point where we're actually getting sort of all the stuff in place to make it happen.
Right.
Well, don't worry. After you appear on this podcast, you're going to have 6,010 downloads, my friends.
Nice. So I'll be waiting for those.
Be prepared for the tsunami of AT Banter fans to flood your...
you have an army of fans.
That's right.
We do a lot of prototyping in my group, so we try to like take the building blocks of this technology, and we know that things that we come up with without interacting with the users and without testing them out are going to be terrible. So we try to to have a platform you can like do rapid prototyping of. So one thing we did was we're interested in the idea of like object finding and things like that. So we have the type of an app where you essentially like announce an object that you're trying to find, and you kind of sweep the phone around, and then it's essentially capturing images of your space, and then it uploads those images to the cloud, and then it's really a crowdsourcing model where it'll sort of ship those collection of photos off to volunteers, and then they localize the object by like clicking on it or like tapping on it or whatever, and then that location is sent back to the user, and the AR technology can sometimes convert the location of the like user's click in the image into a 3D location and give you sort of automatic guidance to the object.
Wow, nice.
So it doesn't work. The problem is like there's certain situations where it works really well, and then some situations where it doesn't work very well. So trying to figure that out. But it's an interesting model where it's like it's crowdsourcing, but without any like direct sort of interaction with the crowd worker. So sort of trying to combine the strengths of people in the sense that they can people who have typical vision can identify these objects, but then combining that with the phone, which is really good at conveying precise spatial information.
Right.
So that's sort of like the goal with that one. But again, that one's like super early stages, and I'm not sure that it will ever, with the current technology, can work well enough to be useful. But that is something we've been thinking about, and we have a whole prototype of it, but haven't gone very far with it yet.
Well, and I imagine stuff like that is interesting too, because even if the current technology isn't quite there yet, you can sort of, speculate. And so you can just wait for the technology to catch up so that eventually it does. And then you continue forward. Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing with this technology is like, it's pretty clear that the right device has not emerged yet for this technology.
Right.
Like the smartphone is awesome, but I think you'd really want some sort of like head-mounted system. I mean, like something like that. If and when it goes mainstream and the costs become low and the technology gets reliable, I think that would be really powerful. I mean, that's one of the biggest things you get is like, it's hard to use this app while you have like a mobility cane or you're holding your like dog, like harness, that kind of thing.
That leads me into like, what about the Bose AR frames?
Yeah, the Bose AR frames are pretty cool. I talked to those guys a little bit. So the thing that doesn't have is it doesn't have a camera on it.
Right.
So in order to get super accurate position tracking, you need to have a camera on it. So you could, of course, like put a camera on it, but one thing that Apple's done with their technology is it's not just about having a camera on it. You have to really precisely calibrate the camera, and you have to know exactly the relationship between the camera and all of the sort of accelerometer, gyroscope, all those sensors. And like the amount of engineering that goes into those is just crazy high. So if somebody came along like an Apple and put a camera on like a pair of sunglasses or something and did all that work to make the position tracking work really well, that would be the perfect device for having an experience like this. Like the Bose device has some of those building blocks, but it doesn't have the necessary steps to do like accurate position tracking.
Right.
But maybe it's leading there, but it's just not quite there yet.
All right. Next year's the year.
Well, you never.
Maybe next year.
Listen, I think wearables are a thing. I think that everybody's working on smart glasses.
Yep.
Of course they're already out there, but I really think that they're still trying to position themselves to be sort of the top of the heap and really come up with that that one device that everybody's gonna want to have. So right. I don't know. I don't see it that far away.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So where can people find Clew and like online or in the App Store?
Yeah, so you can find in the App Store, you can type it in CLEW. So that's how you spell it, not the standard spelling of Clew. So you can find on the App Store. We also have a webpage, clewapp.org. So you can go there. you can email us at clewapp@gmail.com. I'm always happy to chat over email, or if you want to have a phone call with me, I'm always happy to talk to you about the app. So yeah, just reach out, and we're here. We're ready to listen and ready to talk.
Well, and you need people's input. That's the most important part. Cause
we need people's input, and especially people who are excited to be part of designing and building this new technology. And this is not a simple case of, hey, test this out for us. Like, we're looking for a real substantive input on design of large features and things like that. So I'd say I would just put that out there. Is like, if you're excited about that type of thing, we'd be really excited to work with you. So please get in touch.
Thanks so much for taking some time out and talking to us about it. It's really cool, and encourage everybody out there, all 10 of you, to
There's more than that.
to download it, give it a try, and by all means reach out and help them out.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Take care, and we'll be in touch.
Bye.
That would be pretty exciting to be part of, like, a real testing an app at sort of its infancy stage to try to, really help it develop and grow as an app. You don't get that opportunity too much, so.
Yeah, no, it's, interesting. There aren't a lot of these out there that are accessible in the first place. So, kudos to these guys. Yeah,
leveraging the AR component of smartphones really isn't something that's been done a lot AT-wise, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I can't really think of, in terms of using it as a form of navigation, I don't think it's really been done. So these guys are kind of, these guys are trailblazing. Which it's so important in the AT field. I mean, these are how we get to, incredibly useful apps like Aira.
Well, it's good. I'm glad to hear that he's plugged into some of the groups like, Perkins, and, he's aware of Aira and Be My Eyes. And so it sounds like, he's done a little bit of homework and has asked people kind of what they'd like to see.
Yeah, I really do want to live in that perfect world, though. That perfect world where everybody works together. That we just, the technology. That's frustrating. I mean, if they set up some sort of a brain trust, a think tank that just took into account all the technology that's here, all the technology that's coming, and just worked for a couple years. Throw a bunch of engineers and developers on problem solving some of these things. I feel like they could totally come up with like a master mobility app that just took you from your doorstep to a pair of Old Navy jeans, all in a seamless app.
And again, I don't see
they
why
could do it.
That can't be done today.
It can. It absolutely can.
Comes again back down to standards.
Google Maps. You can literally get in your car and you can just, hey, I want to go here, and it will just walk you through. It not only will it walk you through directions, it will figure out what traffic's like and put you on the best routes. Yep. If you get lost or whatever, it recalibrates on the fly, and that's amazing, and it's seamless, and it just works. Yep. And I feel like we could do the same for AT.
Yeah, and I think the GPS part of that is Google's accessing the satellites that are circling the Earth. So in our malls and public spaces, we need a technology that is going to be standardized that everybody adopts, whether it's iBeacons or some other beacon technology. I think that's the next step, is we need some sort of indoor navigation beacon that everybody adopts.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you're right. I mean, I guess indoor navigation is a little bit trickier, and everything from obstacle detection to
even just like ideally it'd be great if we could download a floor plan of, let's say, a shopping center we're about to go to, and then the AR component would we'd be able to virtually walk around that shopping center and figure, okay, London Drugs is over here, the Gap's over here, and then use another app to get you there, or the same app.
Yeah.
But again, like there's still so many variables when it comes to indoor spaces.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts to it that it would be. I can understand. I don't mean to oversimplify it.
No.
Because I understand it's all this stuff is complicated and it's hard to do, and it's a constantly moving target, especially when it comes to indoor navigation.
Well, and there's no specific addresses. Like, think about GPS. Like, it'll get you to an address, right? Indoor navigation, you navigate to the gap. Well, maybe the gap's no longer there, right? In a mall,
sure.
it's at some other store. So there has to be some technology incorporated that's going to be as smart as.
You know, and I think at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like crowdsourcing that information is just the way that it has to go. There's no other way that you can really would be able to keep on top of changes or all these different variables. I mean, it would be unmanageable without, the community sharing.
Well, and I think that's where companies like Aira have just really taken off, right? You can actually hold up your phone, call Aira, and an Aira agent will spend all the time in the world as long as you got the minutes on your plan, and they'll get you from the bus to the mall to the Gap.
Yes, they will. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire, cowbell@atbanter.com.
Send us some mail.
It's sad that there's just that silence when Steve's not here to hit the cowbell.
I know.
It's just sad.
It's lonely over there by itself.
Yeah. So soon, good people, he will be back.
Well, they can also find us on Facebook
and Twitter
and Instagram.
And that is going to about do it for us this week. Thanks everybody for listening in, and we will see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.